Hi everyone, it's Margaret Manning here. Welcome to 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is Jane Duncan Rogers. Jane runs an organization called Before I Go Solutions, which is a not-for-profit organization designed to help people to prepare, design, and create their end-of-life plan. Now, Jane is an author. She's written a book to help people, to guide them through this process of creating an end-of-life plan. And she's here today to talk to us about some essential elements of that plan. So welcome, Jane.
Hi, good to be here.
It's great to have you here. And I love your Scottish accent, by the way.
Thank you.
I've got to tell you guys, actually, this is a really good story. I met Jane just by chance because I happened to be in Scotland, and she is a writer for 60 and Me. She's one of our wonderful bloggers. But I was up in Scotland, and I was in a bookstore, and I saw her book, and I sent her a note and said, "Oh, you won't believe this, Jane. I actually saw your book in this bookstore." And she said, "That's because I live in this town." I thought, "You're kidding me." And so we ended up being in the same town in Scotland at the same time. So we got together for a drink and just chatted about all her amazing work. So thanks, Jane, for coming on with us.
That was really good fun.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you. So here we are. You've written books about both your own experience and end-of-life planning. Let's talk about just three of the basic elements of that plan and start with, like, for example, the will, which everybody knows about. But what are the elements they need to consider?
Yeah, everybody knows about the will, and they think it's a good idea, and not everybody has actually done one. Yeah. So one of the major questions that I'm asked is, do I have to get a lawyer to do it? And yes, you do, if you've got anything other than a very, very simple set of affairs, like everything is in joint names and everything therefore is going to go to the person, that other person.
Right.
Have to say something here. You need to double check the situation in your own country. Really important.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm talking about my experience from the UK point of view. Often it applies in other countries, but not always.
Okay, that's a very good thing to say, because a lot of our women are in other countries. Yeah. So thanks for that.
Yeah. So, but why do you need a will? The reason that you need a will, even if you have a simple set of affairs, is because it makes life a lot easier for those left behind after you have died. Frankly, you're not going to care because you're not going to be here, but your relatives, or whoever it is that is dealing with your estate and your affairs, is going to care. Yeah. And the easier you can make it for them, the better. Yeah. Because they are going to be grieving. And when we're grieving, we often don't think straight, even if we think we are thinking straight. I know this from personal experience after my husband died. And also, if you need to use the process that you have to go through in order to get everything taken care of without a will, is going to take much longer, and it's going to cost money as well.
It's complicated. So Jane, in terms of writing a will, I mean, I know that your book, this is Before I Go, The Essential Guide to Creating This End-of-Life Plan, you probably have forms in there or some structure. Tell us what the minimum will would be. I mean, is it just literally typing a piece of paper saying, today, and have it dated and say, I'm, Margaret Manning, this is my last will and testament, and then sign it? I mean, is that enough?
Not quite. You could do that, but it would need to be witnessed as well, and it would need to be dated. And the witness needs to be somebody who's not named in the will. But I don't actually recommend doing your own, because most people don't know what they don't know in their particular situation.
That's true. That is true.
However, for example, in the UK, you can go to the stationers, WH Smith, and they sell a will pack for £25. Yeah. If you get one of those and you answer their questions, then you know you're doing it right.
Right, exactly.
Other countries will probably have something similar, or there may even be something downloadable on the internet for your country. Mm-hmm. But you need to keep up to date with that, because it changes all the time.
Good point.
But again, if you have anything in the way of a lot of assets, or blended families, or anything to do with another country, you definitely need the advice of a lawyer. It would be foolish to not spend that money now.
Okay.
Yeah, go on.
No, all I was going to say that is you've raised some really good points just in that one sentence about blended families. I mean, if you're the mom in a family, you know too how your children get on with each other and your relatives, and you know the hidden, you know, all the little ghosts, all the little, you know, hidden things, and the people that are likely to come out of the woodwork or come forward. You know all of that. So I think anticipating it, making it super clear where your things are to go, super important.
Yeah.
So thanks for saying that.
It is. So that's why it's a good idea to do a will.
And you were going to say something else. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I can't remember what that is now, but I will go on to the power of attorney, which is also really important because it's something that people don't know about as much as they know about a will. And the reason a power of attorney is more important these days than it perhaps has been in the past is because more and more people are living for longer, but not in such good states of health.
True.
So the power of attorney, which is both for finances, a separate one for finances and another one for health, is gives the authorization to a person that you designate to act on your behalf for you, either taking care of your finances or taking care of your health. It can be two different people, or it might be the same one, it doesn't matter. But you need to have that in place as a kind of insurance. I mean, we all hope that we're not going to get to the place where we're incapacitated and can't act for ourselves. But the fact is, it does happen. So if you have this in place, then you can know in advance that the person that you've asked to do this is actually going to carry out your wishes because you'll have communicated about it and it's a legal form.
So Jane, when somebody, I mean, power of attorney sounds scary. It sounds like, you know, you're giving someone the responsibility for basically, you know, opening your bank account and doing things, and you know, maybe you don't want to do that just yet. You know, so what is there ways that you can say in the event that, or is it power of attorney always black and white?
No, power of attorney only comes into being when you are incapacitated, when you can't act for yourself. Otherwise, it can't be used legally.
Okay. All right. That answers my question then.
Okay. And also, when you die, it stops. So it's only for that period of time when you're incapacitated. Okay.
So what would stop someone? I mean, I suppose you have to be careful though, if you've got someone in your family that would say, you know, my mom has dementia, for example, and so she is not capable, and he or she could, you know, prove that you were not able to make decisions. So I guess that you just have to be super careful about who you give that power of attorney to.
You do, and that's one of the reasons that people put it off, but you can have more than one. So for example, let's say that there were 4 siblings. You could make all the siblings responsible in the power of attorney, and you create it in such a way that they all have to agree with each other. That would take care, at least to a large part, of that kind of situation that you're talking about. It's kind of complex. It can be done in the UK anyway. It can be done yourself by going to the appropriate website, which is the Office of the Public Guardian. But unless you have a mind that doesn't get bothered by legal language and doesn't get upset by it or get fazed by it, then again, it's worth paying a lawyer to do it for you. But shop around and ask for how much they charge, because I know that the prices have been between like £200 up to £800 for the same thing.
Yeah, I remember I did a power of attorney when I got my divorce. My attorney at that time, she said, well, we're drawing up these papers. Would be a good time to do it. I think they call it a living will do they call it a living will in the States? There's another word for power of attorney. But the point is that, you know, sometimes when you're with your lawyer doing something else, it's like, oh, you know, while I'm here, could we talk about this?
Yeah. Exactly, and that's a really good idea. In the States, I think they sometimes call it a healthcare proxy or something like that. They're all the same sort of thing. The living will is something different. It is also known as an advance directive or an advance decision. It just depends. All those kinds of names sometimes called an advanced healthcare decision or something like that, but it all refers to the same document, which can be used by your power of attorney, because it states the treatment that you don't want to receive towards the end of your life, should you be unable to communicate.
Okay, that's different, yeah. Okay.
So it's a bit more specific, but still equally as important, because otherwise you might get treatment that you don't want.
So you would say that those are the 3 basic documents that someone should think about: a will, a living will, or what do you call it? just now.
The advanced directive
Advanced
or
directive.
the advanced decision. Yeah.
And the power of attorney.
They are the three legal bits. In most countries, those are all legal documents. And that's why we have to take them seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else that constitutes an end of life plan, you don't have to do legally. Like, for example, you don't have to have a funeral. You do legally have to dispose of a body properly according to the laws in your country, but you don't have to have anything else. But
Mm-hmm.
people don't usually know this.
Mm-hmm.
So so I wouldn't say that these three are the essentials. Well, in my book, they're not the only essentials. Yeah. There's a whole lot of other things if you want to have a really comprehensive end of life plan in place.
But if you're going to go through the steps 1, 2, 3, those three documents are a great place to start. And I want to remind all of you too that Jane has gone through a lot of research and investigation on this topic. As I said, she has an organization called Before I Go Solutions, and it's a not-for-profit organization that really, you can have access to her on her website, some guidance and direction to forms. And you do have a book, and I know it's called, I should always get, it's a long title, but it's Before I Go, The Essential Guide to Creating a Good End of Life. And in part of that is a workbook, or a workbook it comes with it, that actually helps you to answer the questions one at a time. So it guides you through it gently.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And gently is a good word, because this is a really sensitive and challenging subject for most people, and that's normal. Everybody feels like that about it. Even myself, who I'm well experienced in this, and I don't have a problem talking about it now.
It's hard.
I know that people do have that. So, for example, in that book, there's a whole chapter about how to talk about this kind of stuff with your family and friends
in advance.
Yeah.
Well, I've tried to do that, but I must admit it's not easy. And I've taken to writing things down. Before I discovered your book, I actually was filling in one called The Book of Me, which is a book that in a way guides you through your life story. It kind of gives you a way to, and part of it is then to talk about how you want that life to end. But I agree with you. And so I really appreciate that you've taken the time to be human about it. And like you explained, you've gone through this with your husband and had, well, the gift, I guess, of 9 months to prepare, and found what worked, what questions came up that you needed to ask him. So
yes, it's been quite a journey.
Well, thanks for sharing it with us. We're very, very grateful. And if you've got any questions, check out the website. It's beforeigosolutions.com. And Anne Duncan Rogers, well, I'm really happy that you were here, Anne. I appreciate your time. And you're wonderful. What did I say, June? Did I say June? What did I say?
No, you said Anne.
Oh, Anne. Well, Anne Duncan sounds like a great name too. You don't want to change your name? Well,
I love it. It's fine. Not a problem.
Well, it's Jane Duncan Rogers. Thanks, Jane. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our 60andMe YouTube channel and also visit our website. We are a strong and dynamic community of women over 60. We're challenging aging stereotypes, and every day we share fascinating stories, interesting questions, and great conversation.